Hello and welcome back to video number 4, and we are going to discuss the formula for developing high value thank you offers, or in other words, high value offers that are being placed on the thank you page. So you now know the general formula of how this works. Basically, we've worked with the vendor has decided to place our high value offer on their thank you page. And basically, they're going to place the subscription form or a link that goes to your subscription form, and people fill that out. Now, the reason why this works is because if you build something that is not directly in competition, but is somewhat related to what they are offering, then the customer just bought what they were expecting, but they got something so much greater, which is what you're offering. So obviously, in this case, you have to build something very, very tightly focused, not in direct competition, but tightly focused. So in other words, don't approach a vendor who is in direct competition with you or anything like that. Because as a vendor, a lot of times we think, okay, if I'm going to share my list with you, or I'm going to give something to you, then in you're selling the exact same thing as me, then you're just going to steal my list. So you really have to think about how you can offer something of value, but not in direct competition, if that makes sense. So to make this work, you really need to break it into parts. And here's what I mean by that. Now, we need you to understand how to get the vendors to say yes, because many will say no. So I really want you to put yourself aside here, because I'm probably sure that you're super excited about building a list, getting other people to build a list, and it's super easy to forget about the buyer and the vendor. So put yourself aside for just a moment and let's discuss. So I want you to put yourself in your vendor's shoes, because this is actually very crucial. So I want you to imagine, just for a second, imagine that there is a vendor who is selling a weight loss book for $17. What if you came along and you created a high value product that was related? So that book talks about weight loss, maybe weight type loss, cardio exercises, and all that. But they talk nothing about food or diet or anything like that. So you come along and you find these vendors that are really focused on this particular aspect, or anything that is not related to food. Obviously, if you approach a vendor who is selling a recipe on weight loss, they're more likely to say, oh no, definitely not. Heck no. They're definitely not going to accept that, because it's just too close to what they're selling. So in this case, perhaps because their book is about weight loss and weight loss training exercises, you can perhaps create a high value product related indirectly that is discussing about food recipes for weight loss. And let's say you do that. And what you end up is you create a book or a video that is worth more than their book. So in this case, you can set the recipe book up for sale on an actual sales page for $27. Somebody is selling a $17 book or something lower. Basically, what you want to do is you want to make sure that your high value product is either double or a little bit more money than what they are selling. And the reason being is because it's going to get the vendor to more likely say yes. Now, it's got to be realistic. If you're offering something of low value and just bumping up the price, that's not going to work anyways. So yes, as you can see, it does take a little bit more time to actually go through this process, but it's going to be well worth it in the end. Because if you can find, let's say, for example, 10 different vendors who are selling a weight loss book, but they have nothing related to food, then you can approach those 10 or 20 or 30 or so forth. Really focus on a few right now and just get them to say yes, and then approach other people and say, hey, this person said yes, so forth, and blah, blah, blah. So that's what you want to do. And now I really want you to think about the vendor. So let's say, for example, if you offered your product up for free to their buyers, wouldn't their buyers love them for just getting you to work out a deal? Yes, that's going to be a win-win situation for them and for you. Now, that is only if the book you're providing is of high value. If it's low value and you have low quality, you're just going to get a bunch of no's. In fact, I've seen, many people approach us, for example, and they want to offer something and it is super low value with a bumped up price. So you want to make sure that you have high value, a high value sales page and a thank you page. If you're not able to create one yourself, then get a professional to do it for you. Because you want to make sure that everything looks super professional. Everything is high value, because as a vendor, we all think the same. And what we think is, I want to provide the best to my list. If anything is, not really good, I'm going to say no. So that's what you really have to think about a vendor, and just think about yourself as a vendor as well. Put yourself in their shoes. Now, obviously different niches are different. So you have to think about that particular niche. You have to kind of analyze the vendor and the buyer, which we'll talk about later. Now, what you want to do is offer their buyers your paid book, your paid video course, your paid product or service for free in exchange for them adding this offer to their thank you page. And we discussed why. And that was because the vendor is sending the buyers to that page to get the download information. So think about it really carefully. If they purchased a product that is related to weight loss and they see a recipe book that is directly related, they are more likely to say yes. Thank you, vendor, whoever you are, and thank you. Now, this is why it works, because people land on the thank you page, they remember the vendor, they remember you. So the point of contact has already been created. Even though they haven't purchased from you directly, they have created this connection with you, which is stronger than somebody just subscribing and getting a free book. All right. So does that make sense? Basically, they are a proven buyer and they're going to remember you as well. So this becomes what we call a warm buyers list. Cold list means that they don't know you at all. They don't know who you are. They just subscribe to your list. They don't know what you can offer to them. So they have that connection. They know you, basically. That's what that means. So as long as you build that relationship up and you constantly give them high value materials related to weight loss, they'll buy from you. And this is how the formula works. And it's very simple, as you can see. So really what it comes down to is most of your time will be focused on analyzing the vendor and buyer, and then creating a high value product that they are already buying out on the internet, but you just produce something of more high value. So you see how you are leveraging other vendors. If you can get one vendor to put this on their thank you page, and even if you're getting, a few subscribers a day, those are actually building your customer base list. So imagine getting 10. If you're getting 3 or 5, subscribes from each vendor, you could have anywhere from 10 or 50 different people coming to your list every single day. And these are people that are customers. So soon you will have a list of 100 people, and these 100 people will convert at a higher rate as long as you provide them with high value. So this is basically how this works, and the formula is pretty simple. So as a recap, this is what it looks like. You create a high value offer. You get the buyers to sign up on your subscription form to get them to the thank you page. And that's it. They will thank you. They will thank the vendor. And that's it. So with that said, let's move on and let's find some vendors to piggyback on. All right, so welcome back. This is video number 5. We're going to talk about finding vendors to piggyback on. Now, you want to ensure that your list is high quality too. And what I mean by that is you don't want to approach every single vendor out there, because some vendors are actually selling very low quality products. And guess what? You're just going to get low quality subscribers. And that doesn't always mean the case, but that typically, if you look at certain vendors, you'll notice that they attract a certain type of person. So you want to make sure that you attract the customer that can resonate with them, but also resonate with you. If they're the type of person that are looking for high quality material and they're willing to pay for high quality material, that's the type of person that you want on your list. But if they're building a subscriber list or customer list filled with people who are demanding, they want to pay less, but they demand more, then you're going to end up building a list of people like that. So a lot of times we don't think about that psychology behind building a list. It's just about building a massive list. All right. So you want to make sure not only that, but that the vendor is actually getting sales. And you want to look at some analysis and do your due diligence beforehand. And you might even want to approach them, say, hey, I'm working on a product right now and was wondering if you're interested. So you can also gain interest from that and just build a relationship from that vendor. Another good way of doing it is buying the vendor's product, buying their product, and then saying, hey, I noticed that this product is all about this. I'm actually working on a product right now that is not direct competition with you, but it's something that I feel would actually help your list. So I will say not all vendors will say yes on the spot, but if you have a relationship with them and it's not this, you're begging them or anything like that, but a genuine relationship with them, they're more likely to say yes, because there is somewhat of a relationship building involved. So you want to make sure that the vendors are getting sales and high quality. And there are several sites that you can use to find these vendors. So keeping that in mind, you want to look specifically at sites that sell goods, specifically digital goods if you are selling a digital book, a digital video course, or something digital or intangible. You could technically look at sites like Amazon.com, but most of those are selling through Amazon and are physical goods. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't maybe even convert your product into some sort of physical good. You could approach it that way as well. But you could use Amazon.com digital like Kindle. And if you do enough research, you typically can find the author of the book or the product and do a little research on the internet to find them on the internet. And if they're building a list or selling something on the internet, that is a good indication as well. So you can technically use Amazon.com indirectly to find people. You can use sites like ClickBank.com to find vendors. And this is a great site to go to because ClickBank.com will actually show you stats of how well the vendor's product is selling. And the great thing about this is it really encompasses many different niches, everything from wealth to religion to different types of broad spectrums of niches and all that. Now, there is another site called jvzoo.com, but keep in mind jvzoo.com specifically targets primarily businesses, marketers, so business to business type lists. So let's go ahead and take a look at these sites, and that way you can get a better idea of how to find vendors to piggyback on. So the purpose of this exercise is to merely figure out who the vendors are, what they're doing, and kind of get an idea of, are they a good vendor to approach? Now, there is no guarantee whatsoever on whether the vendor will say yes, but I'm showing you as much as possible to do your due diligence and to find one, and then of course create a high value offer that they are going to most likely be very, very interested in. So I would highly recommend the first site being clickbank.com, as you can see here, clickbank.com. And if you go straight away to the affiliate marketplace, we are able to see the actual vendors that are going to be categorized depending on the niche, the sub niche, and all of that. Now, if you want to scroll down and look through here, that's fine. But we recommend that you go straight away to the advanced search or the search bar here. And then of course you type in that particular vendor. So in this case, let's say for example, that we are trying to find vendors that are going to talk about lowering cholesterol. So let's type in cholesterol here. And as we can see, there are 126 products out there, which means there's 126 vendors that are selling a product related to lowering cholesterol. Now, the nice thing about ClickBank is it gives you some data about whether the product is selling or not. So remember I said you want to find vendors that are actually selling products that actually are doing well. That doesn't mean that you approach somebody who doesn't have good data. It doesn't necessarily mean they aren't doing well, but you are trying to do enough due diligence so that you pick the right vendor. So as you can see, we see these and these are related to the keyword that we searched, but ClickBank also allows you to do a search by popularity, average sale, initial sale, and gravity. Now, gravity is a good detection on whether a vendor is doing well or not. It basically tells us that the affiliates that are promoting this vendor's product, they are actually making sales. So if we scroll down here, we can see that this one has 192.31. Of course, it's related to diabetes, so we need to make sure that we are looking at something that is related, but this is a good indication that the product is doing well. And some of these products have recurring, which means that the customer is not just paying a one-time fee, that they are paying it on and on and on a monthly, on a quarterly, depending on what the vendor chooses, on an ongoing basis. And that's typically good because that tells us that their customers are loyal and they're constantly paying. And that could mean that if they get on your list, then you could open up maybe a monthly site. So that's just something to kind of get a better idea if, let's say, for example, your high value offer is an offer to get somebody into a monthly site. So you see what I'm saying here? There are many different variables here, and vendors have many indications that they are good to, build your lists in different respects. So building your lists, getting somebody to your list that's a one-time person or a monthly person. Okay, so scroll down, make sure you find somebody, and let's just say diabetes. And let's just go ahead and click on this person's page so we can kind of get a better idea of what they are all about. So obviously in this case, they're talking about, type 2 diabetes, how to lower your, high blood sugar and all of that. You want to scroll down and you want to watch the video and you want to make sure that it's actually aligned with what you are selling, because you got to remember that they are attracting a certain type of person. So the person watching this video, in this case, I'm hoping that I'm going to buy something that is going to help me with my type 2 diabetes and all of that. So once they land on the thank you page, and if what you are offering, maybe it's a recipe book or something related to lowering blood sugar, then that's going to pique the customer's interest, right? Obviously, no vendor is going to do this, but if they give you something unrelated to diabetes and they land on that, they're not going to be interested in what you're offering. In fact, they're going to look at you and they're going to look at the vendor and question if they're selling something legit. So you have to think about it from that standpoint as well. The vendor, when they look at your high value offer, they're going to think, is this going to help me